My name is Toby Milnes. I'm the writer of Sister Apostate, and I will be doing a reading from The Passage of Sister Mary-Beaumont by Lucy Howell. Now, way earlier this year, Ruby actually approached me about wanting to adapt a segment of this book into a short film. And obviously, this story is expansive. It's been in the news quite a lot recently because of how dense and century-spanning this amazing history is. And Amy Howell, Lucy Howell's daughter, has recently included a timeline of the story of Mary-Beaumont and the events surrounding her and the families and all this stuff from all the way back to 1194 to the current year, 2026. So I thought I would do a reading of Amy Howell's timeline that you can now read in the limited edition version of The Passage of Sister Mary-Beaumont, which I believe came out a few weeks ago, I think. So yes, I hope you enjoy the series. We're just going to get right into it, I think. Chapter 1. The Birth of Poor Clare of Assisi, 1194 to 1253. 12th century, 1194. 16th of July, Chiara of Reduccio, also known as Clare of Assisi, was born. Clare's father was a wealthy representative of an ancient Roman family who owned a large palace in Assisi and a castle on the slope of Mount Sabasio. 13th century, 1212. Early winter, a church is constructed a few miles away from a small farming community which is now known to be modern-day Hebden Bridge. This church would later be the same church at the site of Hebden Bridge, Poor Clare's convent, built centuries later. And on Palm Sunday, 20th of March, the Poor Clares were founded by Clare Assisi and Francis Assisi. 1216. Francis Assisi offers Clare of Assisi and her companions a monastery adjoining the chapel of San Damiano near Assisi, Italy, where she became abbess. Clare dedicated her order to the strict principles of Francis, setting a rule of extreme poverty, far more severe than that of any female order at the time. 1218. The spread of the order began in 1218 when a monastery was founded in Perugia. New foundations followed in Florence, Venice, Mantua, and Padua. Agnes of Assisi, a sister of Clare of Assisi, introduced the Poor Clares to Spain, where Barcelona and Burgos hosted major communities. 1253. On the 9th of August, Clare of Assisi managed to obtain a papal bull, Soleta Ner, a type of public decree, letters patent, or charter issued by the Pope of the Catholic Church, that allowed her to establish a rule of her own. Clare resisted Ugolino's rule, as her movement of Poor Clares grew around northern Italy. The Ugolino rule was based on a Benedictine one, where Count Ugolino, Cardinal Bishop of Ostia, was given the task of overseeing all such monasteries and preparing a formal rule. Whilst this new religious order was adopted by monasteries across Italy, such as Siena, it was not adopted by Clare herself or her monastery at San Damiano. This was because Ugolino's rule did not closely enough follow the ideal of complete poverty advocated by Francis of Assisi. Her resistance led to the papal bull to establish her own rule that was more closely followed by friars and forbade the possession of property either individually or as a community. Communities that followed this stricter rule were fewer in number than the followers of the rule formulated by Cardinal Ugolino, and they thus became simply known as Poor Clares, or primitives. Many sources before 1263 refer to them as Damianites, after San Damiano. 11th of August. Clare Assisi died, aged 59, only a few days after obtaining her papal bull. On her deathbed, Clare was heard to say to herself, "Go forth in peace, for you have followed the good road. Go forth without fear, for he who created you has made you holy, has always protected you, and loved you as a mother. Blessed be you, my God, for having created me." She was buried in the church of San Giorgio. Chapter 2. The Tribulations of the Poor Clares, 1257 to 1863. 1257. Construction of the Basilica of Santa Chiara in Assisi began in this year. It was finished within the following years. 1260. 3rd of October. Clare's remains were transferred from the chapel of San Giorgio to the Basilica of St. Clare, where they were buried in the earth under the high altar of the new church. The tomb of St. Clare would be hidden, like Francis, for 6 centuries. 1286. The first Poor Clare monastery in England was founded in 1286 in Newcastle upon Tyne. In medieval England, where the nuns were known as minoresses, the principal monastery of the Poor Clares was located near Aldgate, known as the Abbey of St. Clare. The order gave its name to the still existent street known as Minories, on the eastern boundary of the City of London. The church was eventually destroyed during World War II. The street is still known as Minories to this day. 14th century. A tale emerges of a nun who preaches on the streets of London about the rights of women that the ruling men of England have stripped away. She also preached about how the gender God gives us is not necessarily the gender we have to be, and He should love us regardless of who we grow up to be. When watchmen eventually arrested the nun, she mysteriously disappeared from her cell. Some historians believe, from accounts and versions of this tale dating back to the 14th century, that the nun may have been a trans woman. 16th century. 1534. Henry VIII passes the Act of Parliament making him the supreme head of the church. 1536. From the years 1536 to 1541, Henry VIII closed every monastery and nunnery in England and Wales. After the dissolution of monasteries under King Henry VIII, several religious communities formed in continental Europe for English Catholics. 17th century. 1609. After the Poor Clare Monastery was closed in England, several nuns were relocated. In 1609, a Poor Clare monastery was founded at Gravelines by Mary Ward. This monastery was a religious community for English women, and they continued their duties away from Protestant England for the next 2 centuries. The community flourished in France and were able to make further foundations throughout France. 1649. In Wales, not far from Cardiff, a local fable emerges of a nun who helped out on a sheep farm for the day. She seemed confused when stumbling onto the farm, asking about if this is still Scotland and what time she is in. She spent a few days with the farmer and his family, would repeatedly talk about her longing to return to her lover, and then randomly vanished during dinner one day. The tale talks about the nun's ramblings, which confused the family. The nun talked about portable measures of communication, flying objects in skies, self-automating wagons, etc. Historians speculate if this story is in fact proof of time travel due to the eerie prediction of the future. 1793. The ruined monastery was confiscated by the French Revolutionary Army during the French Revolutionary Wars from 1792 to 1802. This happened in 1793. The Poor Clares were imprisoned for 16 months alongside other communities of nuns. 1795. The French community of Poor Clares were released and several small groups of Poor Clares set their sights on England to avoid the conflict. The community eventually relocated to England and settled first in Northumberland. Religious conditions in England had somewhat relaxed, and this led to the new community of Poor Clares at Haggerston Castle in Northumberland. 1796. Due to the French Revolutionary Wars, a woman named Marie-Beaumont, the great-great-grandmother of Sister Mary-Beaumont, a working-class single mother who had recently lost her husband during the war, she moved from her home in the Vendée in France to England. She took her children and other close surviving relatives in pursuit of a better life. Her family secretly practiced Catholicism in London. 19th century, and at this point in the timeline, it's going to go on until 1870, so this part's going to be slightly more rapid fire. 1805, the Northumberland group of Poor Clares moved into Scorton in Yorkshire. 1833, Joseph Agar was born in Fulford. He eventually became the Lord Mayor of York. 1850, a convent of Poor Clares was formed in Woodchester, near Stroud, in Gloucestershire. Fuck. Wait. Cam, hold on. Just shout what it is. What was it again?
It's Gloucestershire.
Gloucestershire. 1850. A convent of Poor Clares was formed in Woodchester, near Stroud, in Gloucestershire. The bones of Clare of Assisi are rediscovered in the crypt at the Basilica of Santa Chiara. 16th of July, 1856. Reverend Mother Mary Bernadette was born in North Yorkshire near Scorton in the town of Richmond. She was previously called Rebecca Walker and was the daughter of an extremely Catholic household. 1857. the Poor Clares founded Clare Abbey in Darlington. 1863. Another Poor Clare convent was founded in Levenshulme in Manchester, England. Chapter 3. The Prelude of Mary-Beaumont. 1865 to 1891. 28th of February, 1865. A girl named Catherine Coltrane, the great-granddaughter of Marie-Beaumont, was born into an extremely Catholic household not far from the town of Hebden Bridge. Her mother's maiden name was Mary-Beaumont. 8th of June, 1866. Gertrude Agar, child of Joseph Agar, is born. 3rd of November, 1867. Henry Coltrane, the brother of Catherine Coltrane, was born into the same household. 1869. A convent was built near Hebden Bridge, at the site of the rural church dating back to 1212, and several nuns moved from Darlington and Scourton to oversee the new convent. 1870s. In 1872, Clare of Assisi's relics were transferred to a newly constructed shrine in the crypt of Basilica of Santa Chiara. Her relics are still venerated to this day. 1876. Rebecca Walker, 18, willingly joins the convent in Levenshulme, Manchester, England. She was given the name Sister Mary Bernadette. 1879. For unknown reasons, Sister Mary Bernadette left the Levenshulme convent and moved to the Hebden Bridge convent. 1880s. In 1885, Mary Coltrane forces her daughter Catherine to join the nearby convent in Hebden Bridge, as she fears the devil is in her daughter. Catherine is 20 when she is forced to leave. Catherine Coltrane goes under the new name Sister Elizabeth Beaumont, and takes up her mother's maiden name for her nun name. In this year, Sister Elizabeth Beaumont and Sister Mary Bernadette become acquainted with each other and start to spend a lot of time together. 1886. A convent of Poor Clares formed in Arundel. 1887. August. Catherine Coltrane is expelled from the Hebden Bridge convent and is relieved of her Sister Elizabeth Beaumont title. It is confirmed she was found to be having relations with another woman in that church, although it was not stated who that nun was. Henry Coltrane would later confirm that Catherine told him it was indeed Sister Mary Bernadette, previously Rebecca Walker. Mary Coltrane and Catherine's father, Robert Coltrane, berate and belittle Catherine over the following months. November. Catherine's parents introduce her to a man named David Carlyle, a farmer who is interested in taking her hand in marriage. 1888. June. At a local fair, Catherine, David and Henry meet the Lord Mayor of York, Joseph Agar, and his daughter, Gertrude Agar, as David agrees to help tend to the mayor's garden and to work for him in the future. Catherine and Gertrude reportedly become friendly. This account is solely reported by Henry decades later. September. Catherine becomes engaged to David. However, due to his poverty, they cannot afford the wedding he desires, so agree to get married in the following year. Winter. Catherine and Gertrude begin their secret love affair, with their evening trips out, purely as friends, leading to their lovemaking, much to the mayor and David's obliviousness. Again, this account is solely reported by Henry, who stated that Catherine later confirmed this to him around 2 years later. 1889. May. Catherine asked David to postpone their wedding, and asked to wait for David to earn more money until they schedule a wedding. David obliges, and they continue as fiancés as Catherine continues to secretly see Gertrude. Early summer. Rumours start to circulate around Hebden Bridge that Catherine and Gertrude might be closer than friends, and in late summer, reports of drunken buffoonery from David escalate as his drinking seems to worsen. He reportedly started to sell a lot more cattle off this year, and Catherine would tell Henry around this time that the farm was in constant risk of closing. October. Catherine tells Henry that her relationship with David is turning violent, and he starts to insist upon a wedding in the new year. 1890. Late January, David starts trying to have a child with Catherine, and in late February, Catherine notices the first signs of pregnancy. March. Catherine takes more hours at the local mill and reportedly visits home more frequently from this point, presumably to get some time away from David. May. Catherine stops working at the mill due to her escalating pregnancy. June. Gertrude reports around this time that Catherine tried to cool off the affair due to her approaching marriage with David. They reunited and continued the affair within the same month. July. Out of fear of Catherine giving birth prior to wedlock, and since David has made some profit on the farm in the summer, he fast-tracks a wedding for the next month in the church in Hebden Bridge. Henry claims that Catherine still wished to delay, but David refused her request. 18th of August. Catherine Coltrane is married to David Carlisle. Her name is now changed to Catherine Carlisle. She reportedly detests being referred to as Mrs. Carlisle and privately prefers Henry and other friends keep referring to her with the last name Coltrane. 23rd of September. Robert Coltrane, Catherine's father, is found dead in a river under a bridge. It is unknown if it was suicide, an accidental fall, or murder. Henry Coltrane would later claim that his father was a quiet man, not sad, nor happy, but he cannot fathom why a man would kill himself after his daughter is married and before his grandchild is born. Late October, Henry discovers a letter from Gertrude to Catherine, where Gertrude claims she longs to see her again and hopes her pregnancy is progressing nicely. Henry confronts Catherine about the letter. She explains to Henry when the affair started and how she longs to pursue a life with Gertrude after she gives birth. Henry claims that, quote, "If I weren't so cruel and silent, perhaps if I understood, perhaps I could have done something. Perhaps I could have helped her and helped them find a safe place. Perhaps I could have saved her." Mid-December. As the baby's kicking, Catherine's nerves are getting to her. She hasn't seen Gertrude in 2 months and tells Henry she wishes to see her before childbirth. Catherine wonders if she'll ever see Gertrude again, as she worries she'll either die during childbirth or be stuck in a loveless marriage as an imprisoned housewife. Henry tells her that she can't risk seeing Gertrude. 20th of December. At night, Catherine is spotted kissing Gertrude behind a church of 2 priests. Shocked, the priests go straight to Mayor Joseph Agar. Catherine is unaware of the onlookers, and Gertrude claims that this was their sad farewell. 21st of December. Word of mouth circulates around Hebden Bridge and the surrounding Yorkshire area. Henry's at the pub with David and some other men, where they overhear these rumours. David asks about the details and causes a violent drunken scene. Many witnesses tell the police that David repeatedly would scream about killing her. Henry leaves the scene during David's drunken outburst of rage, drove back to David's house where Catherine was on her own, knitting. Henry tells Catherine that the priest saw the affair with her and Gertrude. He told her that she must leave town immediately. Catherine makes the point that her baby is kicking, and if she leaves now, she might risk losing her child. They both agree that Catherine should stay in their mum's house while she awaits the birth of a child. Catherine's mother, Mary Coltrane, is cold and cruel to her, belittling her for her sinful activities. Catherine was reportedly miserable in the household while awaiting the birth of a child. 22nd of December. Gertrude claims that Joseph Agar forced her to make a statement to the local newspaper, claiming that Catherine was a seductress that tempted and blackmailed her. That night, Joseph Agar meets David Carlisle to rally a group of men to find Catherine due to her sinful activities. Joseph Agar and David Carlisle claim they never incited the men to kill her, but accounts from Henry claim that they rallied the men to kill the devilish woman. Police claim the group of men started initially quite small, around 15 to 20, so they didn't seem any harm in letting the search for Catherine proceed alongside their own, which was reportedly quite small-scaled in contrast. 23rd of December. The search begins. Henry lies to authorities and other men that he has not seen Catherine, and due to him being trusted and well-liked in Hebden Bridge, he claims it was easy convincing. After a day of unsuccessful searching around the town, Joseph Agar tells the men to temporarily pause the search for Christmas. 24th of December. Catherine's pains get worse from the day into the evening, and on 25th of December, Catherine Carlisle gives birth to a boy, with her brother Henry aiding the birth in their old family house. She does not name the child due to the approaching mob. 26th of December. The next day, she left her mother and brother at the old family house to try and find sanctuary somewhere in the east coast of England. Henry agrees to take care of the child. That night, Mary Coltrane went for some Christmas dinner at her cousin's nearby farmhouse. And drunkenly gossips that Catherine has already given birth to a boy and has fled. 27th of December. After hearing word that Catherine has fled, Joseph Agar reforms an even larger mob of men to hunt down Catherine. Catherine is spotted in a tavern outside of Bradford after she has a fight with a customer who claimed the mob was looking to kill her child. There are no reports if Joseph Agar and David Carlisle were planning to kill the child, but Henry Coltrane would later admit he heard rumblings around Hebden Bridge that this was once the plan. 28th of December. Catherine returns back to her home near Hebden Bridge, where she takes the child. However, she has a run-in with Henry. Catherine tells Henry that she is looking to return to Hebden Bridge Convent to give her son refuge there, as she believes Reverend Mother Mary Bernadette is the only person who will protect her child. After a brief argument and a brief sombre farewell, Henry lets Catherine leave with her child. Henry did not disclose this run-in until decades later, and would claim to authorities and to the mayor that he never saw her after the 26th. Henry also never saw Catherine again. 29th of December, Catherine, manoeuvring around the large mob, manages to drop off her child at the steps of the Hebden Bridge Convent. This section is actually shown in not only our main film, we adapted that part there, but also we did a proof of concept film which shows Catherine's last interaction with Henry. So you can watch that if you'd like to. Anyway, back to the timeline. Sister Mary Bernadette sees the note Catherine has left and immediately knew she had to protect the child. She castrates the boy and tells the other Poor Clares that a girl has been left on the doorsteps. Mary Bernadette wants to keep the original letter from Catherine, but finds it too revealing due to their former relationship. So, in order to not arise suspicions from the other nuns, Reverend Mother Mary Bernadette forges a much briefer letter on how the mother wishes to keep the child within the walls of the convent for safekeeping. She would stash the original letter away in her office as a personal item, and the nuns do not suspect that the new letter is a fake in the slightest. 30th of December, the Reverend Mothers of Hebden Bridge agree to take the girl in, unaware of the note that Catherine has left, and the girl's assigned gender at birth. End of chapter.